Hi there, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jim Simpson and I'm on the product team here at Duo Security. If you've been on the webinar before, you're probably familiar, but if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to just ask them live in the channel. And of course, we're going to have a couple of poll questions that we want to ask you along the way here, and we'll give you those answers as soon as we have them back. Our agenda today. So we'll talk a little bit about why we're here. We'll talk a little bit about what Duo's roadmap looks like for the coming quarters. We're going to talk about a couple of famous pairs in history. We'll talk about some research that we've done and our new edition, Duo Beyond. And then we'll talk about some of the enhancements to the other editions of our product. So without further ado, why are we here? So if you're familiar with the security space and solving problems in the security space, typically you have different things that you have to be concerned about. You've got users, devices, networks, and applications. And traditionally in the security market, a lot of those, the ways that you solve those things are using different tools. And our perspective from the very beginning is that complexity works against good security. When we started as a company, we thought to ourselves, oftentimes you have to make a decision between security and usability. Wouldn't it be great if you could just have both of those things? And so what we like to do, or the way that we like to think about ourselves, is that we take away the division between those different areas, and we offer what we call trusted access. And so it's a holistic solution to help you solve your security problems in an easy-to-use way. And in a nutshell, we protect organizations by verifying the identity of the users and the health of their devices before granting them access to the applications that they need. Talk a little bit about the roadmap. But before I do that, if you're an existing Duo customer, we've made some changes. So we just launched a new product that we call Duo Beyond, but we also renamed the existing editions that we had. So if you're an enterprise customer, that's now called Duo MFA. It's all about the world's best and most easy to use two-factor authentication. Platform edition is now Duo Access, and that's a really great way to provide trusted access to the applications in this sort of modern world where you've got cloud and on-premises applications and users bringing their own devices and working from different areas. And then we also have got Duo Beyond, which is our new product, which is the first commercial implementation of the Beyond Corp architecture out there, and we'll do a deep dive on that today. But let's talk about the roadmap and what we've done for the last couple of quarters. So this last quarter, and I've divided it into like some of the new Beyond stuff up here, and then we've got our Duo MFA and Access functionality down here. So last quarter, we released Azure AD Sync. If you're using Microsoft Azure AD to do for your IDP, we can now onboard users from Azure AD into the service. And we're also working on workflows to help you if you're currently using AD and you want to move to Azure AD to facilitate that migration for your user base. We also released Active Directory attribute mapping. No two organizations use the same attributes when it comes to Active Directory, and customers let us know that it'd be really helpful for onboarding purposes to allow them to remap attributes. And so you can now pull more information into Duo to get your users up and running much more quickly. And then, of course, we're continuously releasing new SAML applications. So we had 10 new SAML applications in Q4. And when we say new SAML applications, these are things that we consider Duo ready. It's the idea that we have tested this, we're aware of all the issues, and it will definitely work. Of course, we have a generic SAML connector, and since SAML is an open standard, most things should work with it. But we always want to go that extra step to make sure that applications do what they do, or do what they say they're going to do. And of course, if you're a customer of ours and there's a SAML application that you'd like us to support, please let us know, because that's how we prioritize the SAML applications that we go after. So before I get into Duo Beyond, this quarter we released a Dockerized version of our Duo Access Gateway for the Duo Access Edition. Docker is a way in which we can better maintain all of the things that go into a particular software installation. And so it makes it much easier for you to get something installed. But as we have maintenance issues, updates to that software, it makes it easier for you to actually do the update without having to worry about all the different packages that are are associated with a given product that we have. So we'll be moving more of our installations to Docker going forward in the future. The other nice benefit is if you're using Linux distribution and you want to run Duo Access Gateway on that now, you can do that with the latest release of Duo Access Gateway and the Dockerized version of it. For those of you who have Splunk, you may have been pulling Duo's logs into Splunk. We now have a module that's available in Splunk base. It's the first module that we've done with them, so if you use it and you have some feedback on it, let us know. We're always looking to improve these things based on what our customers have to say. And then, certainly last but not least, we just released a new version of our Windows Logon GUI. So if you've been working with Duo for some time, you know that the Windows Logon GUI has not been at the same level as our authentication prompt. But now your end users will have the same great experience that they do when they use the authentication prompt on the web. So talk about Duo Beyond here for a minute. We're very excited. We just launched this last month in mid-February, and the two big features that are associated with it are what we call trusted endpoints, which is a way for you to tell the difference between managed and unmanaged devices that are accessing your network, and the Duo Network Gateway, which is a way for you to provide better controls when external users are accessing internal resources. And we're going to go in that in depth, so we'll save that for just a few minutes later. Next quarter, when it comes to Duo Beyond, we're looking at adding the ability to do managed mobile devices with it. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And then we're also going to do additional EAM integrations when it comes to managing, being able to work with managed and unmanaged devices. For all of our other additions, and this is also, so everything below the line is also part of Duo Beyond. We're going to be releasing new dashboard and reports. We have a lot of feedback from customers about specific things that they want to see in the product when they log into it. And so we've been working on the data platform underneath that, and we're going to be bringing some of those things out next quarter. For those of you who have multiple IDPs and need to resolve multiple users or multiple usernames into a single user, we're going to be offering that functionality as well. And then for those of you who have a fleet of Macs, one of the requests that's come in is it'd be great if we could actually put two-factor on those Macs, and we'll have a Mac authentication plugin as well. And then looking further out into 2017, the Duo Network Gateway currently supports web applications. We're also going to be adding functionality for RDP and SSH. And much like we're building out more integrations for EAM, we'll be doing the same thing for MDM with Duo Beyond. And then when it comes to the rest of our products, we'll be adding the ability for you to set and control policy via our API. We're also going to add something around administrative groups where you'll be able to partition off parts of your deployment so you can say only these administrators can manage these applications. And this is becoming of critical importance to larger organizations that we work with. And then finally, one of probably my favorite things is we're going to be rolling out mobile device backup and restore. Every September, iPhones come out around that time frame, and typically we hear a lot of our customers, including me, go through the process of actually having to onboard all of those accounts again. And I have 20 of them, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing this functionality come out. So that's the roadmap in a nutshell. I want to talk a little bit about some famous pairs in history. So the first, very, very young in my life, I got familiar with these two guys, Waldorf and Statler. More recently, we've had Han Solo and Chewbacca come back to the big screen. And today, we have a treat for you. You're going to get to meet Trevor, and of course, I'm still up here. So without further ado, I'd like Trevor Huff to come up. He's on our product management team, and he's going to walk you through Duo Beyond. Trevor?
Thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Great.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about Duo Beyond and what trusted endpoints and Duo Network Gateway means for our customers and how that can help solve some problems.
Great.
So let's go first into how we've seen Windows and Mac compare and contrast with some of the updates over 2016.
So this is some of the research that we've been doing recently. We see this across a broad set of our users, and we found some very surprising stuff, things that we didn't quite expect given what the different security postures of manufacturers are out there. So
that's right, absolutely correct. So we see a lot of information come in across all the different platforms, whether that's MFA, Access, or now Beyond Edition. And this is primarily focused on 2016. And one of the most surprising things that we saw was that Windows kept more up to date both on from their browsers that their users were using and also the overall operating system.
Okay, so can you explain this breakdown a little bit here?
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is regardless of the browser platform, whether that was Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, the primary thing that we were looking at was what was the most recent thing, so how up-to-date was the primary platform that they were using. And what we saw was Windows users kept their browsers up-to-date more often than Mac OS users.
So yeah, it looks like the breakdown here is like for browsers, like 66% of Windows users kept their browsers up to date, and like 45% of Mac OS browsers. And with the operating systems here, it still seems like there's a lot of room for improvement.
That's right. Yeah. So on both the Windows and the Mac OS side. Now we should be clear that we consider Windows 10 to be the most up-to-date operating system.
Okay.
And likewise on Mac OS, it's always a constant moving target based on how frequently Mac OS publishes their updates. So it is surprising to us though that we see Windows 10 to be, the continued adoption continues to be there. So Windows 10 always, in our eyes, is the most up-to-date operating system. But for Mac OS, with the frequency of updates, that's probably the case of why they're not as up-to-date as our Windows friends in the environment.
And of course, we can help with this problem, right?
We certainly can, Jim. So with our Access and Beyond Edition, we're able to help enforce policy based on operating system, browser, plugin, and as we'll soon see if the device is managed or unmanaged. So what we hear based on our customers is managed means corporate owned or has some sort of footprint in their enterprise asset management tool or EAM, or even Active Directory, because a lot of times our customers say like, look, I have ways to enforce controls that oftentimes Duo doesn't. So that could be encryption, that could be other forms of operating system enhancements. So I want to make sure that those are the devices that I trust for access. So whether or not we are enforcing the control or the customer is, we have a way to ensure that only those devices that are the most up to date can access those critical applications.
So tell me about this Duo Beyond.
So let's check it out. So there's, again, two primary things, Duo Network Gateway and Trusted Endpoints, and they're both a critical part of the Beyond Court model. So let's go over the traditional network-based security model. So in this case, Jim, what I have on the screen here is a remote user would come into the traditional network, and generally speaking, what we see is a VPN in that case. And once they're on the network, they have access to all of their applications, the entire network. That could, in any case, be Active Directory, that could be file shares, or any number of applications. So in this case, we have a remote user, they've accessed the network, and they now have access to all 6 of these applications, even though what they actually may need just may be application 3. So that could be Jira, Confluence, SharePoint, and as a user in this context, I don't actually need to get on to Active Directory. I have no interest in actually hitting that machine. Does that make sense, Jim?
Mm-hmm, sure, yeah.
Awesome. So what we've implemented with the Duo Network Gateway is application-based security. So in this model, here I have a remote user. They're accessing the Duo Network Gateway in the same way that they would on-premise. Okay. So in this case, we can pretend that I'm on-prem and I need access to a web-based application such as Jira or let's say SharePoint. So traditionally I would go to duo.sharepoint.com when I'm on-prem, and when I'm on-prem, I just go directly to that application. But in a traditional network-based security model, I would have had to go through some other conduit like a VPN.
So why is application level security an improvement over network level security?
That's a phenomenal question. So if we go back one, and we're here, the remote user, when they go through a network-based security model, they have access to everything in the network, even if they don't need access to it. But in a application-based security model, they're only gaining access to the critical things that they need, and we can enforce different layers of access controls based on those particular applications. So let's take this context as an example. Jim, you only need access to application 4 and 3. So in this case, you're gonna come in and you're not actually changing any of the workflows that you would traditionally do if you were on site. So you just go to duo.sharepoint.com and you're in. You're not having to go through anything else. You just think that, oh, I just need to go to this URL and I'm in.
So it's transparent to the end user?
Completely transparent.
Okay.
That was one of our main goals that we had when we set out to do it, is that there's nothing that gets in the way of the end user unless the admin wants to enforce additional access controls. So from that perspective, let's say for SharePoint, you just want to get right on. But there might be some other on-prem application that you need to enforce some additional security controls. So in that case, application 4, you need to make sure that your browser's up to date, your operating system's up to date. So you say, hey, look, for that one, again, application 4 in this context, we're going to make sure that everything is up to date before you can actually gain access to that. But for application 1, 2, 5, and 6, you should actually never have access to those. And if you try, you're going to get blocked.
Okay.
For me, on the other case, I need access to applications 3 and 5. Again, same principle, I can just get in, or I might have to meet some other application security controls based around that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Now let's take this actually one step further.
Okay.
And let's talk about how trusted endpoints plays a role in this. So we at Duo understand that we cannot be the canonical source for everything, and that our admins probably have a pretty good idea of their canonical source. In other words, they know what their corporate devices are. They know what their managed devices are. We also acknowledge that we don't do everything. So for laptops and desktops, we get a lot of requests to say, hey, I want to understand if this device is encrypted. I want to understand, is it running the latest antivirus signatures? Well, we also acknowledge that our end users, or excuse me, our admins are saying like, look, we really like the agentless factor that Duo brings. We like that we don't have to install additional footprint on the machine. That's one of the main value propositions that we hear from our customers. So we want to maintain that. But we also want to deliver on the other problems that our customers are asking us to do. So when we started digging at the why that our customers were concerned about this, it was because they wanted to trust those devices that were coming in. They placed more trust in those machines that were corporate owned. It was because they could determine if they were encrypted. It was because they could determine if they were running the latest antivirus signatures, amongst other security controls that they placed. Even though, you know, as me being an end user here at Duo, I might come to our IT staff and say like, look, I promise it's encrypted. I promise I'm running the latest AV signatures. They place more trust in their own security controls. So what we've done is we've tapped into some of those canonical sources, whether it's a Windows Enterprise Asset Management tool, such as Landesk, a Mac OS management tool, such as Jamf, or even Active Directory. And we said, look, you tell us what you have defined as corporate owned. We'll give you a tool to identify those machines agentlessly in a matter of minutes. And then you can create additional access controls based around those, and then have the same influence in an agentless fashion for some of your or all of your cloud-based or on-prem applications, as long as we can see a Duo prompt. So in this context here, Jim, what I have is a user that's logged onto a corporate-owned machine, and they can go through the Duo prompt. And for app 3 and 4, they're going to get in. For a BYO machine, again, they're going to go through that Duo prompt, and they should only be allowed access to application 5. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent. So we have a quick question for you guys. And if you go to duo.sc/MDM, it's a survey, should only take you a matter of seconds to answer. But we'd really like to understand, which mobile device management tool do you use today? And after a quick demo of how Duo Beyond works, we'll give you the responses so everyone can see that answer. So let's dig in and we'll actually see how Duo Beyond works. Let's go through a demo. So what I have here is the Device Insight tab. And for those of you that are familiar with the product, you should be fairly familiar with how Device Insight looks in both MFA and Access Edition. So here we have the Device Insight tab for Duo Beyond. And you'll notice actually only one thing's changed, and that's the Trusted Endpoints donut graph. Exactly, Jim, thank you. And so what we're telling you is the number of devices that are trusted. In other words, what has what's called a Duo certificate, which are devices do not have a Duo certificate, and which are unknown. In other words, which devices have we not seen after we've configured this. Now you'll notice I'm using a term called a certificate. So we infer trust based on a cloud-based PKI system, which we have, we own, we maintain, and it takes a matter of about anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours to set up.
Go
ahead, Jim.
So what's the value in that? Like, why is Like 15 minutes to 2 hours, is that a lot of time? Is that a little time?
That's a really great question again. So we had roughly 100 beta customers help us get this up and running. And if you're one of those beta customers that's on this webinar, thank you very much for the help. So what we learned during our beta is our customers have tried to solve this understanding if the device is coming in, whether it's managed or unmanaged, corporate owned versus BYO, in one of many ways, whether that's a soft certificate, which is the way that we have solved the problem, a VPN, other enterprise asset management tools, hard certificates, whether that's like tying into the actual physical device. They've tried to solve this problem in one of many ways. And it's taken them anywhere from 6 months to 12 months to get up and running and configured.
Okay.
They've often had to hire people to get that up and running. And we're able to solve that in 15 minutes to 2 hours. We actually have races on our development team. The current record holder is 4 minutes to get this feature up and running. If you're able to beat that, email me and let me know. I'll provide an email for you in just a minute, and we'll get you some sort of gift card or something if you're able to beat that 4 minutes. So anyways, it's quite an accomplishment that we can help our customers get this up and running in 15 minutes to 2 hours. It's quite impressive, and that's what we're hearing from our customers. There's actually 2 case studies on our website. One's from Kayak and the other one's from Tanium, attesting to how quickly they're able to get this up and running and solve those problems of identifying a device and then enforcing policy based on whether or not it's trusted, or in other words, it has that certificate or it does not have that certificate, because it establishes if the device is managed or unmanaged by that IT department. So let's dig into actually and attest how quickly we can get this up and running. So you'll notice in Beyond Edition, there's something called the Trusted Endpoints configuration. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click on that. And this is, of course, our test account, so we have a lot that have already been configured, but it's as simple as clicking Add an Integration. Right now we have 3 tools in here plus a manual enrollment, but our Jamf Pro could be used for any number of other Mac OS enterprise asset management tools, such as Chef, Puppet, Monkey, you get the picture. Even though it's not listed here, feel free to use this. And if you run into any troubles, again, I'll give you an email address in just a moment. You can email us and we'll help you get up and running. So let's go through that one first. It's as simple as clicking, select this integration. There's a few steps here. To be precise, there are 3. So after you click on this, it goes over how it works. There's docs listed here in case you run into any problems. There's a script, and you just copy that script, paste it into your Jamf Management Console or other Mac OS tool that you would have, run it under the user context, create that script in Jamf Pro, and apply the script in policy under Jamf. This allows us to attest that, hey, look, this device is in fact in your Jamf Management Pro console. And then when the endpoint actually hits us in Duo, we can infer that, yes, this is managed within Jamf, or no, it's not. And then you can create any number of policies, which I'll go into in just a moment, to say, yep, it was managed, or no, it's not. And what we're seeing based on several customers, Tanium and Kayak to name a few, as I've noted, those case studies are in fact available on our website, is that this particular integration takes about 15 minutes to get up and running. You've just landed a certificate, and you're well on your way to inferring whether or not a device is managed or unmanaged. Cool. So let's go back to that trusted endpoint configuration and go over the other 2. So the other 2 that we have are a Windows Enterprise Asset Management tool. We have one that's named right now, which is Landesk. But if you have other enterprise asset management tools that fall in the Windows context, such as SCCM or Altiris, feel free to use the Landesk tool because it can be genericized for any Windows EAM. Again, if you have any problems, I'll give you an email address in just a moment. You can feel free to email us and we'll help you get that up and running. So it's as simple as, again, clicking on select this integration. This one has 4 steps, and the reason why it has a 4th is if you have non-domain joined Windows computers, you have to take one additional step to get Chrome configured. Otherwise, if all of your machines are domain joined and you want to use this Windows EAM tool, it should take you about 15 minutes to get up and running. So you run the 3 steps and you're done. The 4th step is only necessary if you have non-domain joined computers, and that's it. The last configuration, which we find a lot of our customers use, is for Active Directory. So with Active Directory, this one takes, and one real quick thing, Jim, is you'll notice I haven't mentioned any additional hardware that you need to install, any other PKI system that you need to get up and running, which is why our customers have found this to be so valuable, especially on the enterprise asset management tool side. But I'm about to break that just a little bit because the last integration, which is our Active Directory integration, does require a proxy to be installed. So with this one, we ask that customers install a Windows 2012 R2 server. This facilitates a proxy between our cloud-based PKI and an on-prem Active Directory environment. You install that Duo certificate proxy. Again, that whole process right there only takes a matter of minutes. That's what we've seen with our roughly 100 beta customers. After that, you need to now go into your Active Directory environment. You create a group, run through some GPO configuration, and that's it. Any other users that fall into that group that you've created will receive the certificate from our cloud-based PKI, and you're off to the races and running. There is some configuration that needs to be done on the certificate proxy that you need to install from our certificate proxy, and once you're done with that, the walkthrough can all be had in our documents, and if you run into any problems, feel free to email support. Any questions, Jim?
No, I think I'm pretty clear.
Excellent. So now the last thing, we've configured everything here, is to configure a policy. So let's go through and see what that actually looks like. It's pretty simple. So there's only 2 options in our policy, and we gathered all of that based off of, again, our 100 beta customers that helped us check this out. So you can see in our edit policy, under devices, there's trusted endpoints. At the top here, I'm showing this off, and there's only 2 things that we can do. Allow all endpoints. So if you're allowing all endpoints, you're going to gain the intelligence of if devices are managed or unmanaged, and that'll appear in Device Insight amongst 2 other places that I'll show you in just a minute.
So I see that this says global policy. Can I do this at a more granular level?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you can apply trusted endpoints with any one of our policies, whether that's to a specific application, to a group, or even to an individual user. And of course, you can add exceptions. So what we've heard a lot is, look, this is great. I'd really like to apply this globally, or I'd really like to apply this to a particular application, but I have one particular user that I want to accept. Okay. No problem. It's the same principle to any of our application policies. You can accept users, you can accept applications. Doesn't actually matter. It's the same principle that you have for all of our policies. In this case, I'm editing our global policy, but you can feel free to edit any of the policies that trusted endpoints would apply to, which necessitates a Duo prompt to be present. Does that answer your question, Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you.
Awesome. So right now, I actually have at the global level to block endpoints that do not have a Duo certificate. Of course, you don't have to do that. If you have allow all endpoints, that will allow any endpoint through, whether that's a mobile device or laptop or desktop. As soon as you go into blocking mode, we're going to block any endpoint that does not have a Duo certificate. Now keep in mind that actually includes mobile devices. Right now we don't support mobile devices under the trusted endpoints feature set. And what that actually means is we just can't land certificates on mobile devices. If you'd like to help us do that, email us at trustedendpoints@duo.com, and we'd love to get you into our beta program. That email address will be outlined specifically in the next slide once we get there. But this will allow you to actually block those devices that don't have the certificate. Laptops and desktops are supported to actually land a certificate there. So to Jim's point, we can customize this policy for anything. So you'll notice I have a lot of custom policies here for applications, and you can go down to a specific group as well if you wanted to apply that to a group policy. So that covers trusted endpoints. We've got one more thing to go through, which is the Duo Network Gateway. So the Duo Network Gateway is run on Docker. If you go to our docs.
So wait, really quick, what is now, so trusted endpoints, there's a lot of information there.
Absolutely.
So what does Duo Network Gateway help with?
Great question, Jim. So as we went through in our slide deck, the Duo Network Gateway transitions from a network-based security model into an application-based security model. Okay. So if you have on-prem based applications that you'd like for users to potentially not have to go through the rigmarole of the standard network-based security model anymore, and you want to expose things directly to them.
Like a VPN or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you didn't want to have them go through a VPN anymore, and you just wanted to give them direct access to your on-prem web apps, we can help you with that.
So it's kind of like cloudifying your on-prem applications in a way?
It's a great way to think about it.
Okay.
So cloudifying your on-prem apps, I couldn't have said it better myself. So you take that on-prem application, And you can think about it as a cloud-based app now, where your users can access it from anywhere, but you're actually not directly exposing it to the internet because the traffic's actually going through our Duo Network Gateway. Their primary authentication is going through SAML. You don't have a SAML provider, no problem. We have the Duo Access Gateway that can help you act as a SAML provider. And everything else is explained right here actually in our Duo Network Gateway admin panel, which I'm gonna walk through right now. It's run on Docker. I'm not gonna go through the Docker setup. That takes about 15 minutes. If you have any questions, check out our docs. They're very explicit as to the commands that you need to run. And it's a lovely self-contained updating machine where in order to run an update, it's as simple as typing one command and the machine updates all by itself. So in order to get this up and running, go check out our docs. Again, the commands are all listed right there. We're going to assume that we've already done that. So again, the primary authentication source is run on SAML. If you don't have a SAML provider, we can offer you one. Again, it's free with some of our product editions. And you can see for the primary authentication source, I've already taken care of that for us. And I filled all that information out based on our Duo Access Gateway. You just have to list out a couple of requirements. And if you need to get this set up, it's probably going to be pretty important to actually talk to your SAML provider in your organization so they can help you get this up and running. After we've done that, the next thing that we're going to do is get an application up and running, which I've already done. In this context, we're going to be having Jira, which is an on-prem app that we run in-house, exposed to users without necessitating a VPN. So here in this case, it's actually pretty simple. To add an application, we just hit add an application. There's some integration keys, and we can then configure this in the same way that we would any other app in the cloud or on-prem with Duo. So there's some things that we're going to configure here, some SSL certificate information that we're going to need from the application. If your on-prem app doesn't support HTTPS, no problem. We can use port 80 as well. And again, all that traffic is going to be secure going over the internet because we're going to proxy that traffic from the Duo Network Gateway directly to the internet over 443, but the internal traffic can support internal being from inside your network. That can go over 443 or port 80. So not to worry, anything outside of your network though will be secure. So in this context, let's go check out how the actual flow would be from the end user. So in this case, I have jira.acmecorp.info, and we're going to assume this is live and outside the environment. This is what the end user would actually go to directly.
So Trevor, like they could type that both like if they were in the building, they could type jira.acme.corp.info, and then also like say if I were at a cafe or like working from home or something like that, I could just, I only have to type in that one URL.
That's right. So let's assume, Jim, in this case, that our users are used to typing jira.acmecorp.info inside the network, and we want to do some testing. We support what's called split DNS, where we can say, hey, for a short period of time, we're going to go to an internal URL. Well, you can see I have an internal URL right here. So we can support that. Your users are used to going to a certain thing, and we also support an external URL. So again, you can, as an admin, test some things out and make sure your users aren't going to fall over or, oh my gosh, their minds are going to explode. You can do some things and test out and make sure it works. Well now, once you're ready to do that hard cutover, you proved to the rest of your business that this is in fact something that we want to do, you can actually make that hard cutover without impacting any of your business. And once you want to do that, you can make these URLs exactly the same. So in this case, my external URL will match my internal URL, and your users won't know any the wiser. You just have to tell them, hey, don't go through the VPN anymore. Start using this URL instead. Absolutely, Jim.
Great.
So in this case, let's go ahead and use that URL. I'm going to go through this external URL. I'm going to go try to hit that. I'm going to be prompted with the standard two-factor authentication prompt that I'm totally used to. I'm going to hit login. Of course, I've got my two-factor phone right here ready to go. I'm going to send myself a push, the fastest way to authenticate. It's going to pop right over here to my phone. Now, this was a little surprising to me. I actually didn't know with the new iOS upgrade that I could use Force Touch. So I'm going to use Force Touch. The swipe doesn't exactly work anymore. Thank you, Apple. So once I Force Touch, I get my little approve here. I'm going to hit approve, use my Touch ID to authenticate, and I'm in. It's that simple. So once I'm into my Jira, I can go ahead and do my day-to-day, and that's it.
Great, awesome.
So with the Duo Network Gateway, I can apply the same principles of all the other policies that we offer in Duo, whether that's trusted endpoints, whether that's network location-based policies, up-to-date versus out-of-date, predicated upon operating system, browsers, plugins, anything else that we offer in Duo, you can apply that same thing with the Duo Network Gateway.
Cool.
So that's what we have to show you with Duo Beyond. We're looking for beta testers to help us out.
Do you want to bring the...
Oh, that's a great idea, yes.
Yeah.
So we're looking for beta testers to help us out with our mobile device management offering, which is going to tie in to an MDM. So that's why we actually asked this question. So if you use AirWatch, Mobile Iron, something of the like, we can identify a managed mobile device in those MDMs and then do the same principle where we say, hey, look, if that device is managed by you guys from the mobile perspective, we'll be able to enforce access controls based around that. And Jim, I think we're looking for some survey results. Do you have those?
Yeah, so we have the question here, which mobile device management tool do you use today? And you know, I'm using my Sight Beyond site here to read across the room, but it's quite small, so you're gonna have to give me a second while we adjust things. I'm getting a little older these days. My eyes don't work as good as these young guys. So, wow, this is really interesting. So 75% of you actually said other, which doesn't necessarily provide a whole lot of insight, but the number one MDM after that is AirWatch.
Great.
So we're going to be looking at supporting AirWatch. That's on the roadmap. So
Excellent.
For you, that'll be great. For the rest of you who put in other, we'll probably be doing some customer interviews to find out more about which MDM providers you're using. So.
Yeah, and for those of you who did write other, we'd love to find out what those are. If you are interested in helping us out, trustedendpoints@duo.com, send us an email. There's a bunch of us on that thread. You'll get direct access right to me, a bunch of our developers, and so just give me a shout, and we'd love to work with you guys so we can help you get Trusted Endpoint supported on the mobile side.
Okay, great. So, all right, thank you so much, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
He's going to now heckle me while I stand up here and tell you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing with Duo Access and Duo MFA. So, of course, you know, before we start this, I always have a question for you. This is the last question we have for you guys, and it's how do you manage your corporate identity? So duo.sc/identity. It's really important as we continue to go further into the market that we get feedback from you about, you know, what are the different things that you're using to manage identity, because we want to make sure that we continue to integrate with those. And so again, duo.sc/identity. And with that, I'm going to hop into Duo Access and show you the new phishing tool that we have in there. It's this first tab here. So let me go to the top. So this was where Trevor was in policies, and you can see right here I have this new tab. It's even got a little fish on a hook there because we love our literal things. So a phishing campaign. So we launched a free tool last year called Duo Insight. And of course, if you're currently not using Duo Access and you want to try out this functionality, go to insight.duo.com. You can try it out for free. You can run as many campaigns as you want to. The limit is 100 users, of course, and there's no way for us to actually like pull your users in other than you typing them in or maybe doing an import of some sort. So that's actually the reason why we've got this in Duo Access, is because our customers have told us loud and clear that, you know, they think this is a really fantastic tool because you can run a phishing campaign in under a minute if you're pretty quick, and it's really easy to get up and running with this tool here. We apply the same principles to almost all of the things we do. We're trying to focus on, you know, making it usable and also making it quick to get up and running. So if you've got what was once Platform Edition, now Duo Access, check out this new tab here. It's the phishing tab. You can see that I've got a couple of sections here. I've got campaigns pending approval and active campaigns. And we'll talk a little bit about this because I'm going to go through creating a campaign really quick here. So we click on create a campaign, and it'll give you a set of instructions. You're going to choose your users, you're going to craft an email, and then you'll need an administrator to approve your campaign. Ideally, you're aware of people launching phishing campaigns in your organization. This is to prevent somebody from doing something untoward. And then finally, you'll review your results. So let's get started here. I'm going to choose a group in my organization, and we have this really great set of people here, our Duo Labs team. They're our security hackers. They're really brilliant, so we're going to see if we can actually turn this tool against them. And I'm going to choose a domain, and so duo.com is our email domain, so I'm going to use that. And then by default, it's got all of the users in here that are associated with that group. And so if you wanted to customize it, remove some users, of course you can do that. I'm just going to click next because I'm going to phish all of those guys. All right, I'm almost there. I'm just going to be redirected to the phishing tool to get up and running with this. So what's really cool here is you can see that it's got a number of different applications here by default. Okay, they look very similar to other applications, especially cloud applications that your organization might be using. And in particular, if we have the insight to do so, we'll actually say, hey, you know what? It looks like your company uses this kind of application. So let's encourage you to maybe go down that route because you're going to have a higher success rate with this. Now. So this is our labs team, and I'm on the product team, and we work with those guys quite a bit. And in fact, we talk a lot about like research, product roadmaps, and so we usually share things via documents. So I'm going to choose a document for those guys. I'm going to go ahead and craft an email. So I'm going to say 2017 joint product and labs roadmap. That sounds really appealing. I mean, I know I would click on that and say, hi everyone. Thank you for all the meetings over, oops. They know I'm a really good speller, so I have to correct those. I'm a stickler for that. Thank you for all the meetings over the last few weeks.
Jim, while you're typing,
here's the final results. Yeah, what's up?
Just to let everyone know, Steve Edwards, who is one of our guys that works in security here, he actually did a webinar a while back about how to actually get phishing campaigns approved in your organization. I know that a lot of times people have and struggle with launching phishing campaigns. Yep. When we were actually creating this tool, that was what we found, that some people actually struggled to go through the process of saying like, hey, look, I want to launch a phishing campaign. They got blowback from people within their organization. So I know that's available somewhere on our website.
Yep.
And
of course, like on our YouTube channel, we've got all of our past webinars too. So if you want to see the greatest hits of Jim, I'm also up there.
Perfect.
So you can see, like, you get a preview over here where this is what this phish is actually going to look like in email. And so edit sender, so you can choose a number of predefined domains here. I'm just going to choose cloudsignin.com because that sounds really official. My name is Jim Simpson, and I am just Jim. So Jim @ and so the thing about this is before you launch a campaign, we need to get a confirmation email sent to the domains administrator, and then they'll click accept to start the campaign. And of course, we've got a whole bunch of different defaults in here. I'm going to choose an internal one for us. So, and then you get a chance here to review the phish. And so you've got the service that we're going to use, the domain, all of this stuff. You can actually change this here if you want to, who the recipients are. Of course, if I just wanted to send this phish to myself, I'm logged in as Trevor currently, not the best security. I could then send that to myself just to see what it looks like before I actually got it underway. We're going to go ahead and launch the campaign. Yay! Much like when you send congrats via iOS now, you get confetti here. And of course, this will then take us back to the panel. And you can see up here at the top now, this is a pending phishing campaign. And what will happen then is an email will go to that alias that we chose, and then someone simply just has to click approve on it, and then the campaign will get launched. I'm going to skip that part here and just go down to show you what campaign we ran previously looks like. So this is a sales phishing drill. Our sales teams are, they're always on their email, very responsive, especially our team here. And so we know if we launch a campaign, there's a high likelihood that we'll get some results to show off here. And so what you can see is you've got a summary here of the number of people who opened the email, people who clicked on the email, and then of course people who entered their credentials. And 9 out of 53, not the easiest math in my head, but it's around 16%, I think. And what we found broadly across organizations is anywhere from like 12 to 16% of end users enter their credentials. And so that's about average there. If you are an organization, you're running phishing phishing campaigns. If you're lower than that, then you're doing a great job benchmarking against the average. If you're higher than that, then there's probably some work to be done there. And of course, we're happy to help you with that. The cool thing here, though, is we've also got this last little circle that says out-of-date devices. And so as users are interacting with the phishing campaign, much like we do in other areas of our product, we also are gaining telemetry around the devices that they're using, because if you think about it, having an out-of-date device potentially being phished, it means there's a much greater attack surface for a potential exploit. And so Duo's phishing tool can give you that insight as well. And of course, we've got a breakdown here of, so 15 of those 15 out of the 53 devices had out-of-date browsers and operating system. 2 of them had out-of-date Java plugins, and then 1 had an out-of-date Flash plugin. So that's actually pretty good for an out-of-date Flash plugin, because that's probably one of the trickier things out there. And of course, you can look at like specific user activity, like when it happened, who it was, what they did, like did they enter the credentials, did they load the page? And then of course, we also will give you some of the security warnings that are associated with it. Of course, you can also download this information if you want to do follow-up, or you can get a URL if there's somebody in the organization you want to send this to. And last but not least, of course, this particular campaign was different. So this is the phish email that was sent for that. And of course, it was a very simple one, like your inbox is at capacity, and just go ahead and click on this thing to log into online web access. And so there's a whole bunch of different ways in which you can phish your users using this particular tool. And of course, as you use it, we would love to hear your feedback as we continue to enhance it. So, any questions about that, Trev?
It sounds like, Jim, two-factor is a great way to prevent phishing attacks.
So we think it's, so there's a number of different ways that phishing tools work. A lot of times, there's talking about education. Our perspective is that education can help, teach users about the value of security. But if you want to stop phishing dead in its tracks, two-factor is a really great thing to layer on top of that. And so that's what our perspective is on it.
Fantastic.
Like if someone gets phished and their credentials are stolen, you've at least got that two-factor to stop the attacker from getting in.
Excellent.
Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Duo MFA. So Duo MFA was previously our Enterprise Edition, and we've got some new device insight functionality available in there. So I'm going to first show you like what it looks like at a high level, and then what it looks like at the MFA. So I'm logged into Duo Beyond here. The reason why I'm using this is because this has a whole bunch of data in it, so you can see what's going on. So you'll see you've got like out-of-date devices, the different types of devices that are associated with your deployment, what the state of their operating systems are, the browsers and the plugins. The difference, of course, between our MFA edition and our Access and Beyond edition is some of the functionality here is not available. So, for example, you have to have Duo Beyond in order to get the trusted endpoints. We don't give you that insight as part of Duo MFA. So seeing all of this here, I'm going to just switch over to a version of Device Insight that's on an MFA deployment. And so if you're using Duo MFA, this is what you're going to see. This is the version of Duo Insight that you get. So again, very, very similar to what we've got there, but if you want to do enforcement or gain more deeper information about the different endpoints that are involved, you'll need to check out Access Edition. And you can do that free 30-day trial to check out all that functionality. And so if you click on here, it'll tell you like what the value is, what kind of details you can get, the kinds of policies that you can build in it. This is sort of the first step in giving you insight into the different devices that are on your network. So again, check it out. If you're an MFA or an enterprise customer, you've now got this new tab there. Let us know what your feedback is. And we're going to come back to this final question here. How do you manage corporate identity? And I'm going to look at Trevor, who's going to sort of read your minds and tell me what the answer is.
Yeah, so again, I'm using my telepathy skills here. And what I'm seeing is that 48%, or excuse me, now it's 52% of our customers use Active Directory.
Okay.
Sorry,
can I stop you there for a second?
Please.
So what's really interesting about that is I've been with Duo for almost 5 years now, which makes me ancient, but one of the best companies to work for. And when I was the only product manager in the company, we checked across our users, and 95% of our customers back in 2012 were Active Directory users. So that's dropped to 52%. That's really interesting. So tell me, what are the other ones?
Yeah, so we're actually tied for a number 2 here between other
My favorite.
Yeah, Okta and Azure Active Directory.
So Okta, so wait, all of those are tied for second place?
That's right, with 13% spread across those three.
Okay, very interesting. So yeah, so the landscape is changing, and we have integrations for both Okta and Azure Active Directory. Maybe some of you are using those as well. And once we have more information about this, of course, we'll be sharing it. So you can try Duo Beyond for free for up to 30 days. All you have to do is go to your billing tab. There's a way for you to sign up there. Check out this new functionality, like the trusted endpoints and the Duo Network Gateway. And of course, we're standing by here on our support team and our sales team and as product managers to help you walk through any of the questions you might have there. I mentioned that we're blogging, so we do a lot of research. We like to share that research along with our perspectives on what's going on in the security industry and sometimes some of our internal processes even. And so if you've got some time, we'd love for you to check out our blog. You can add it to your RSS feeds as well. And then, like I mentioned, we're hiring. We have 4 offices around the world. We've got our Ann Arbor office here. We've got San Mateo out in California, and an office in London, and also we're building up an office down there in Austin. And so we have a lot of jobs we're looking to hire. I'm looking for product managers, duo.com/jobs. And I think for us, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Trevor.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.